Have you ever been in that situation where you're talking to someone, maybe at a party, a meeting, or just running into an old acquaintance, and suddenly, it happens? That horrifying, heart-stopping, life-altering moment where you completely forget their name. And not just for a second, like, oh, it'll come back in a moment. I mean that full-blown, brain freeze, panic-inducing moment where your mind goes blank. And you start questioning every single memory you've ever had. Well, let me tell you about the time it happened to me, and why it's honestly one of the most awkward experiences a human being can endure. It started like any ordinary day. I was walking into this networking event, trying to look casual, trying to pretend I had it all together. When I ran into someone I knew, or at least I thought I knew. There was this familiar face, a smile I recognized, and suddenly my heart said, "Oh, hey, this will be easy. You know this person?" And then my brain hit the panic button, 'cause as soon as I opened my mouth to greet them, their name completely vanished from my memory. Poof! Gone. Just like that. At first, I tried to stall, giving a little nod and a smile, thinking maybe if I smiled long enough, the name would magically pop back into my head. But no, nothing. My brain was just staring back at me, completely empty, as if it had declared a temporary strike against my social life. And then came the classic internal debate. Do I ask for their name outright and risk looking completely incompetent? Or do I try to maneuver my way through the conversation, hoping I can somehow avoid using it? Of course, I opted for the second option, because admitting you forgot someone's name feels like social suicide. So I nodded, chuckled awkwardly, and started asking completely irrelevant questions, hoping that the conversation would distract both of us from the fact that I had no idea who they were. The conversation started well enough small talk, whether mutual acquaintances, but deep down, I was sweating bullets. Every time I had to refer to them, my brain came up with alternatives like you, friend, or that person, none of which made me feel any better. And of course, they had this way of smiling knowingly, like they could sense something was off, which only made me panic more. I could feel my cheeks getting hot, my palms sweating, and my heart racing like a drumline in a parade. Meanwhile, I was mentally running through every interaction we'd ever had together, desperately trying to recall the name from memory.
Gosh.
And each time I thought I remembered, I hesitated, terrified that I might say the wrong name and turn the situation into an even bigger disaster. At one point, in a moment of pure desperation, I did what every human has probably done at least once in this situation. I tried to make a joke about forgetting names. I smiled and said something like, "You know, I'm terrible with names. I'm going to have to come up with a nickname for you," hoping that self-deprecation would buy me a little time. For a second, it worked. They laughed, and I felt a tiny relief, but I knew it was only temporary. Because eventually, the conversation was going to require me to say their name, and that was the moment I dreaded. I tried to maneuver the chat toward topics where I didn't have to use it, asking questions about work, hobbies, and mutual friends, praying my memory would kick in at some point. Then came the peak of panic, the social climax, if you will. A mutual friend joined the conversation, and suddenly, The person I had forgotten the name of was being addressed by someone else. My brain, in its panic mode, tried to process it, but my timing was off. I heard the name, yes, but it sounded distorted, like a foreign language, and I couldn't confidently respond with it. I nodded, laughed nervously, and internally screamed, "I know it! I know it! But I can't say it right now." It was a torturous moment of near revelation, where relief and fear collided in my chest like two cars in a demolition derby. Every second felt like an eternity, and my social anxiety had reached levels I didn't even know were possible. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, I had to make a choice. I could either continue pretending, risk being found out later, or just come clean and ask their name. I took a deep breath, summoned every ounce of courage, and asked, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I know we've met before, but I completely blanked on your name. Can you remind me, okay?" And as with many of life's humiliating moments, it turned out to be fine, okay? They smiled, said their name, and the world didn't end. In fact, they were understanding, and the tension lifted instantly. It was almost funny at that point how much anxiety a simple 3-syllable name had caused me. I laughed at myself, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief, realizing that sometimes the moments that feel like the end of the world are actually just minor blips in the grand scheme of life. After that, I reflected on how many times we've all been in this situation. The human brain is amazing, but also occasionally cruel. It can hold so much information, yet in moments of pressure or social expectation, it can betray you completely. And it's hilarious, in hindsight, how much effort we put into avoiding admitting that we've forgotten something as simple as a name. It's a universal human experience, one that makes us all a little awkward, a little anxious, but also a little relatable. And that's why I wanted to share this story with you. Because everyone has had that moment or will have it at some point, and it's comforting, in a weird way, to know that we all go through it. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever completely forgotten someone's name in the middle of a conversation? Did you manage to bluff your way through? Or did you eventually have to ask? Comment down below with your funniest or most awkward name-forgetting stories. Promise I'll read them and laugh along with you. It really helps me create more content like this, full of relatable, awkward, and funny moments that we all experience. And if you're not subscribed yet, click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future stories of embarrassing, awkward, and hilariously human moments like this. So remember, forgetting someone's name is one of the most universally terrifying and awkward things. But it's also something that makes life funny, unpredictable, and relatable. It's messy, stressful, and sometimes humiliating, but it's also a story you'll laugh about later. And the best part? Everyone else has been there too, so you're never really alone in the panic, the hesitation, or the awkward laughter that follows.